We are preparing on Facebook. We got it. Hey, Laura, how's it doing? TGIF Friday. And guess what? I was riding my bicycle,
Were
and on
you?
my last ride right around the corner as I'm coming home, it starts sleeting in my face. And I'm like, what the
No.
heck is going on? Because it is, even though it's a little chilly outside, the leaves on the trees are amazing. So, anyways, I had to tell you that. How's your day today?
My day is absolutely wonderful. I'm going to go see my granddaughter today.
Hey,
I'm excited. So, yeah, it's always a fun day when I get to be a grandma and stuff. So, yeah, we're going to talk about something really awesome today. And every one of us has experienced this. Nobody is, shy of not having it. We all have had this happen to us, and
right.
that is rejection. And we're going to talk about embracing rejection. Rejection is the fear of being rebuffed, can keep us from living life fully, but there are graceful ways to handle the sting. So we're going to
Mhm.
talk about today. Oh my gosh, there's so much research on this. And as I'm doing it and I'm reading stuff and listening to things, I'm like, oh, all my life is going past me of all the stuff that I had to deal with. Debbie, could you remember a lot of your rejections when you were young?
Yeah, I mean, listen, guys, we can talk about real deep and we can talk about Simple Simon. We can talk about deep where, I mean, this just came to my mind and I'm just going to blurt it out because it did. But, my parents were divorced when I was young and my dad was not in my life. So that was a rejection that happened to me when I was very young. Okay. And trying to process that and trying to deal with that. And back in our day, Lori, divorced parents were not as prevalent as now. And I don't judge, everybody's got different reasons and situations. And sometimes it's the better thing for it to happen, right? But, as a child, you don't really know how to process that. So it is a rejected feeling. So, but
Yeah, it is. And, being divorced, I understand that. You think of the child and you want the best for the child, but they all get scarred in one way or another. What was really interesting in what I was reading was about the fact that if you're raised with somebody that has a lot of anxiety or a lot of self issues about themselves, and as a child, you learn to not to feel rejected as a little child,
mhm,
and that goes on into your life, and a
right.
lot of times while you deal with things in your life is because your self-esteem and you have the self-rejection. So you kind of compensate with that by overdoing things for people to get them to like you. And that's a very, very common problem. And another thing is too is when a situation happens and you're rejected from a job or something like that, or from a date or anything, a friend, you take it personally. I'm not good enough. Why can't I do things? I mean, after all, children could be really cruel. I mean, my granddaughter, who I love, my one granddaughter I love so much, she wants to just make everybody happy. And when somebody doesn't want to play with her, she gets so upset about it. And
Mhm.
I'm trying to tell her that it's okay and find somebody else to play with. But Deb, you have any thoughts on that?
I have something that just came to mind that just kind of happened just recently, and I want to share this because you talked about your granddaughter, and I'll talk about children in general. Um, this might sound kind of strange, but like bullying slash like things that kids can do to each other, so at a young age, can be something where the child or the person can feel a rejection and then also have a physical problem. Okay. So some of the physical problems can be like a churning stomach, okay, or tightness in the chest or a sense of shutting down, closing down. So it, I hand it to Lori and I both have kids that are teachers and we hear stories. We hear stories all the time of what happens in the classroom or what happens all over. But, sometimes guidance or the way the reaction or the adult guidance for those children is so key to lift them back out of it so that they don't close down and then start to feel like they're nobody or they're not good or they can't do this or they can't do that. So, and and sometimes they're afraid to come to somebody and tell them about it. But
Right.
that's where you got to really watch and listen and ask a lot of questions. I know Lori's like this. I know I'm like this. We ask a lot of questions. We want to know what's going on, even with our adult kids, or even with each other, or our spouses, or our significant others, or whoever your circle of people are. Body language, will tell you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I happen to get this list of 10 things to help you deal with rejection. And we'll go over some of that stuff too. But Debbie, do you want to bring up anything else about something that, with rejection, as far as when you're young and stuff like that? Anything that you could think of?
I think that I can tell you something that just happened recently in our family, which I'll just tell it as kind of like a blanket thing on the playground, where kids can sort of bully each other with words and say something to the fact that, like, okay, I'm better at this than you are, or whatever. And it might sound like so lame, like, but in a way, then that person feels rejected to the point that, like, well, maybe I shouldn't do that sport anymore because I'm not good at it. But really, they are good at it, but people can be so nasty, you know what I'm saying? And also, I've witnessed it with a family member where they were having stomach aches and the stuff I just talked about before. And when it boiled down to it, it was a bullying situation. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know I'm repeating it a little bit, but it was a very, very tense situation that we had to get people involved in and talk to and figure it out. And it's been nipped in the butt and everything now, but it's crazy.
Yeah, I have a situation too. A friend was just telling me this story the other day about this. She was in high school, I guess, and there was a guy that told her that he had the biggest crush on her in high school, but he was afraid to ask her out because he didn't want to be rejected. And he grew up in a family where the father was very abusive. So he always felt this self-esteem of not being good enough. And I remember my friend telling me how bad she felt that she didn't know that he liked her because she would have went out with him. So, all kinds of situations happen. Every day people are being rejected, every single day. And, I have to commend Debbie for coming up with this topic and doing research on it. It's just amazing the stuff that we've been listening to and reading about. But, these top 10 things that we're going to talk about, we'll put it on our Facebook page so you can look at it. But I was just amazed by it. And, Debbie, we'll go over them. Is that okay?
Sounds really good. Yeah.
The first one is accepting the answer. Okay. So when you're rejected for a job or a job, you're rejected from a friend, you're rejected from date, you got to accept the answer. Don't try to convince them, like beg them, convince them that you're for the job. Or, you got to convince them for a job, but you don't beg them. You don't beg somebody to be your friend because it's going to turn out to be wrong in the long run. What do you think of that, Deb?
Let me just bring it into relationships a little bit, because we both have had experiences in this era. We've seen it both ways. Okay. But we've also seen it within our family, and and I'm not going to get detailed, but people who maybe, things that didn't go right, and maybe you didn't see the rejection or you didn't see the light there. It's better that you nip it in the butt earlier, like you're saying, and kind of accept it so that you don't waste your time or your emotion or put yourself into an anxiety, stress, depression. Okay. Because, being, a breakup, a divorce, or even just being fired from a position, you're going to come out better. The strong will survive, and everything happens for a reason. There's something better out there for you. So I just wanted to say that, because I feel like this is more about looking at the healthy end of it. In the moment, it sucks. It sucks.
It sucks, right?
But that's where hopefully we've talked, Lori. Okay, again, Lori and I we are no professional coaches in this arena, but there are professionals out there that can help you deal with it. So let's always know that there's somewhere to go. Don't ever feel like you can't find something to help you.
Right.
For the next one, distancing yourself from the situation. sometimes you just got to walk away and remove yourself and maybe take a break and go away for the weekend or do something or have a, kind of mental, like a mental break, because sometimes when you're in the middle of everything, you can't see that, you can't see, you can't see. So, but allow yourself to feel the pain and the hurt, allow yourself to, but process it, I'll tell you what, Lori and I, thank God I have Lori. Like, we can talk to each other seriously. When we've got some crappy things happening, we can process them and bounce them off of each other. Try to hope to find you have somebody like that. And sometimes it's better if it's someone you know well, but sometimes in some cases it's even better if you don't know someone very well. So that's another thing that I think is really great. Laura, what do you think about that?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to go back to something we were talking a little bit earlier, kind of goes in this whole thing is being ghosted by somebody. Mm-hmm. And that's where where somebody doesn't want you to be a part of their group anymore. Or we were talking about somebody defriending you on Facebook, So accept the answer, distance yourself from the situation, allow yourself to feel. You're not the only one that gets defriended from somebody, and it's not worth it. Or somebody doesn't invite you anymore, part of a group, So you use all those techniques, accept the answer, distance yourself from the situation, allow yourself to feel, spend time with family and friends. And this is what I love. Do something you like. Mm-hmm. If you want to paint. You want to write. Journaling is like one of the greatest things. Like Debbie's doing, I love her, is riding a bike outside.
Yeah.
Exercising outside as the wind is blowing in her face. But do something you like. Get away from the situation. Say you got rejected from a job, job thing. There's more jobs out there. You just pick up the pieces and move on. But you know what? You need to take care of yourself. You need to do something you like to do. Okay. Go out and buy something, for yourself. Go out and visit grandchildren, your family. And then this is where you practice self-care. Mm-hmm. And that is taking care of yourself, getting up in the morning early and, praying, meditate, I listen to mass in the morning, church, and I read a lot of scripture and, just do something to self-care, Mm-hmm. Make sure that you put makeup on if you're a woman, get your hair cut if you're a guy, just take good care of yourself because nobody else can do it for ourselves. And that will build up your self-esteem and it will make you feel better about yourself. Because rejection, the whole world is about rejection. This world is about rejection. So you got to step up to the plate and you need to take care of yourself. And Debbie, when I think of somebody, you're so good at that. You're a role model to me. And, getting up and riding your bike, you could have just said, it's too cold. I'm not going out today,
Thank you. Well,
so you might want to give some hints about self-care because you are such a motivator for that.
Well, you know what? But here's the thing. You know what? I think you know how they say you are what you eat, but you are who you. That's kind of an acronym or whatever. But I think that you have to think about like, okay, what if I run into somebody? Do I want to be like, do I want to see them the way I am, kind of thing. Like, I mean, or how do people view you or whatever? Or I think you feel you feel better. I mean, I hear it all the time when people like don't get the time to get their hair done. Okay. And then all of a sudden they come in and they're like, oh my God, I feel so good. I feel like $1,000,000. It's not because of what I did. It's because they had something done. You know what I mean? Like they had it done and they're like, I got to make a goal. I got to come sooner. You know what I mean? Or I got to get it done sooner because they feel better about themselves, So I think that's like really key, Also next, learning from your experience, or learning from someone else's experience, I mean, seriously, you guys, just learning from each other, being on this platform, learning about different things, reading books and reading and listening to others grab yourself, put yourself into a group if you need to. We've talked about those groups, Clubhouse and also the other one, Meetup. There's so many groups in there that if you don't have the ability to go somewhere and learn from others, for like support groups, is a great way. So, but with that, Laura, do you want to hit the next one? We got number, yeah.
Put your situation in context. In other words, what did you lose? Okay. Kind of like, make a list. All right. Because I didn't get the job. Maybe it was good because it was too far. Maybe I got the job because that's not where I meant to be. Debbie, you always say, and that your mom always said, God has a plan. And there is always a plan, believe it or not. If you believe in yourself, you could just pick up the pieces. Okay, yeah, you got to feel what you got to feel, be upset, get over it, and move on. I remember when I was not working for 14 months and my unemployment just ran out. And I was like, what am I going to do? I went to a class. It was done by the Church of Latter-day Saints. I'm not part of that, but I learned how to interview and what to say and what to do. Oh my gosh, it was so powerful. After I was done with the class, I got the job the next day with somebody. Wow. So, it was a lot about finding out who you are, So you take in contact of was this job good for me? Was this what I was meant to do? You write down all this stuff. Was it too far? Was it too close? Maybe it just was not where I was supposed to be, like I said, and then explore new opportunities, there's so many opportunities out there. Oh, I sit there, because I'm disabled, I can't work. I sit there and go, oh my God, there's so many jobs out there. I would be like going nuts. Every day I still look at them and say, boy, I could be doing this right now. But there's so many jobs out there, and stretch yourself a little bit. We can all do it. And just explore new opportunities, and as far as the thing with friendships and stuff like that, meet new friends, like Debbie says, go on, Clubhouse and go on all these other things, meetups and stuff. I just signed up for a virtual Bible study that's going to be starting in January. And I'm excited about that. I don't know the people, but I'm excited about learning who these people are. But yeah, explore new opportunities. There's a lot out there. And especially now where a lot of things are virtual. And so there's so many things that you can do and stuff. I get invited all the time to watch virtual things. I don't always get a chance to do it. But there's so many things. It's just the whole thing is, just accepting everything. And life is hard enough as it is. And if we don't have the right people around us to lift us up, we can't, it's hard to go on. What do you think, Deb? What's your thoughts on all of this?
Well, I got to say that I'm going to kind of like tag onto that you're right about that if we don't have the right people around us. But also in part of like cultivating healthy responses to others, because here's another thing just to kind of say is that, and I think this is a good point for us all to kind of think about and know, we're coming up to the holidays, okay? And we're coming up to people that we may be with or not with, depending on certain things. And certain things it's kind of hard because there are people, their comfort zones are different still, but there's also people that have points of view. That's the way I want to say it, points of view, and that they can, and it's a rejection thing in a way of kind of like if they don't believe on the same page you do, okay? So let's just say you got two people and family members especially, okay? This is the worst. And they're two different sides in, let's just say we don't talk politics, but it happens to be something on opinions or whatever, okay? Current situations, right? And one is very passionate about one and one's very passionate about the other kind of thing, right? Well, you got to learn to have healthy responses and to get yourself out of that conversation so that it's good, because the context that's in there, they're criticizing you, you're criticizing them, and you're rejecting basically a lot of what they're saying. So it's a little different slash on rejection, but it's just guys, I want to give you some advice. Change the subject and don't allow it to happen. I've already made a little of a pact with my husband. I mean, we're not going to let any kind of stuff happen and no talks, no nothing for Thanksgiving if it arises, because we don't want to be put into a compromising position. It's the same thing as if you were a little kid and somebody was bullying you or somebody was this. You just don't go there. Just don't go there. Don't try to one up somebody and don't try to shove something down their throat. And it's not turkey. And so, you know what I'm saying? Because it's seriously not worth it. Okay.
It's not worth it. And you know what? I hate to say this, but all the stuff I've been reading and listening to too, they say this is going to be a really tough Thanksgiving for people. But the thing is, we just have to respect each other with family. You know, I'm going to tell you something. I was so blessed as a child growing up with my grandmother. Okay. My grandmother would have 40 or 50 people there. All right.
Wow.
And she would cook for everybody. She didn't care who came or whatever. But this is the point. A lot of the relatives did not like each other. But when it came to the holiday and respect for their mother, their aunt, or whatever, they just got along with each other. And we never knew there was problems because it was expressed in there. Oh my gosh. Just to go back to those days, if you come from a big family, celebrate it. Because you don't know what you're missing when when relatives go, when they say the key person passed away, then everybody else doesn't get together. Enjoy your families. But like Debbie says, it's really important, you know, that we respect one another and don't go to that part of conversations. But, you know, going back to the kids, because it's really on my mind right now, these kids have it really hard right now. So they have to wear those masks and everything too. Yeah. But, you know, the thing to do, I think, with them is, you know, if they're upset about something or that somebody makes fun of them and stuff, just keep pumping them up. You know, you're this, you're that, whatever you want to be. You know, you don't need a friend like that. Or, you know what, show that person that you could be a good friend. And they'll, you know, maybe tag along with you. That was just a thought I had because kids are so important to me, you know.
So impressionable. It's so impressionable. You're so right, Lori. And again, I think a lot of the reason, I mean, we're passionate about our grandchildren, but we're also in our children. But we see what our kids go through. Are both adults. You've got Tony, I've got Vanessa, both teachers. We see what they deal with. I mean, sometimes in our household, she'll tell us things that happened, and sometimes we laugh. Sometimes you almost want to cry because you think about, like, my goodness, you know, how blessed we all are, you know, and the effect we have on others. I mean, seriously, it's
right. And,
you know,
and how these children see things, you are an example for them as adults, but how they see them is how they're going to reflect the rest of their lives. Right. Some of them are not strong enough to come out of that feeling of rejection the rest of their lives. A lot of them turn to drugs and alcohol to deal with stuff. So it is our mission, all of us, no matter how old we are, to lift up our family and friends. That's what God wants us to do. And I just want to just keep saying that. So,
you know, I'm sorry, Laura. I was just going to say this. I was going to say that if you feel that you have a position, you have something going on in your family that you feel needs, you know, professional help, you know, it may be hard because maybe you don't want to overstep your bounds. But let's say you see something going on. First of all, pray about it. Number one. Number two, see if you could talk to somebody about it and get some professional guidance, and then, you know, take action. But don't try to interject when it's too late, you know, and they get to a point where it's too difficult to have, you know, some results. So if you kind of follow what I'm saying, it's just a matter of, like, there's all individual situations that we see and things happen, you know, so, but with that, Laura, it's going to be a beautiful weekend, you know, even though it's going to be a little chilly, but that's okay. I mean, what are you going to do, right? It's changing seasons.
Right. Well, I heard that it might snow a little bit. You said you saw a flurry. So, I'm kind of excited because my granddaughter's 2, and I'm kind of excited if it does snow a little bit, we could go out there and try to, put your tongue out and catch the snow,
Yeah.
when you're a kid.
Yeah.
So, but with
Yeah.
that, I want to tell everybody, have a great weekend. Let's all stay positive. Let's not take
Absolutely.
action serious. Let's just celebrate who we are and our family. So with that, God bless everyone. We love you. Take care.
Care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.